Nigel, how do you think Trent has responded to those criticisms?
I think he's done well. I think he's done all he can do in his powers. And I'm a big Trent fan. I think he's a fantastic player. He's changed the whole fullback position. Him and Robertson and these fullbacks that are coming now, they're just different to what we're used to. You know, they're more than a fullback. I think the world is his oyster, and I think it has been unfair the criticism he's received, but he's responded in the right way, like Danny said. He really is a terrific player. If he could actually just also concentrate a bit more and improving in his defensive side of things, it would also benefit him a lot more. You know, you want to be the best. And for me, one of the best fullbacks, I don't know if Danny agrees, that I've seen play the game, who has the ability to defend but also get forward, was Ashley Cole. I thought Ashley Cole was phenomenal because he really put the same effort and energy into his defensive side of the game as well as attacking side of the game. And that's what made him, for me, probably one of the greatest fullbacks that I'd ever seen. And I think Trent, from the attacking perspective, he's fantastic. He's every manager's dream with his assists, you know, the quality he possesses for crosses and getting involved in attacking sense. It's just a defensive sense. If he just really dedicates himself to not wanting to be beat, you know, not making mistakes, as he kind of got caught out in Madrid, then he really will be probably one of the best fullbacks this game will ever see.
Danny, do you agree?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sense in that. I mean, I think he, like anybody, benefits in a team that's settled around you. I think Henderson helps him a lot when he plays on that right-hand side of the three, Nige, where he covers in when he bombs forward. I think the centre-halves, when you've got Gomez, Van Dijk being so athletic, he can be more free and not worry as much the other way. So, of course, all great players need other great players around them. But Nigel's spot on. I mean, he does get caught occasionally with his concentration, moving his feet a bit. Sometimes gets a bit tangled when he's up against a quick winger with quick feet. But let's not forget his age. Let's not forget how far he's come and how quickly he's risen to be the player he is. For 2 years before this season, he was arguably one of the best right-backs in Europe. There was an inevitable dip going to happen. I mean, to keep that level up where he was at was remarkable for as long as he did for such a young player. But he seems like, to me, he's got this resilience where nothing seems to bring him down. He keeps trying things. He's brave, really brave with his passing, his crossing. You know, he goes out there and plays the same way. He doesn't hide, never hides.
Do you think it's a bit of a...
Danny, though, I was just going to say, Danny, do you think that from a manager's perspective, if they just gave him that bit more responsibility and backing, then everything that you're saying there about what he can work on, he'll take it on board? Because you know what it's like when you get young centre-backs coming through. You have to be at a different maturity level to be playing anywhere along that back line. And there's a point where you get that responsibility. So instead of always having to wait on Henderson covering him and Van Dijk, do you think it's a bit more game responsibility that has to come from him? But don't you think that can be easily coached by a manager just saying, look, you are one of the great fullbacks in European football, but you need to improve on this. You know, just concentrate a bit more, make it that no one can beat you, and people give you that extra respect because the attacking sense is fine. Just improve that defensive sense and prove people wrong.
I think you always need some help from your coach in terms of, as a young player, somebody to guide you the right way. But I think it's also, like you say, about your own sense of responsibility on the pitch, game management. So I might be having a bad time. I might be feeling a little bit not as fit, not as sharp. So I won't go forward as much. I won't try and put, you know, I'll just work on my defensive aspect of my game. But I'm a big believer in that your coach develops you, that helps you develop and makes you find your strengths. And I agree with you. There could have been some help along the way. But you know what? I think one thing that you have to give Klopp credit for, even though Trent's had a bit of stick recently, he keeps putting him out there. He keeps giving him the opportunity to play through it. And I don't know if you felt, when I was having a bad spell, a manager that trusts you and gives you the platform to play through a little bad spell is a massive boost.
What advice would you guys give them then? I mean, the difference that differentiates good players to great legends is how they respond to this sort of dip in their form, really. And having been young players, having gone through all the dips in form throughout your entire career, Danny, what advice would you give to Trent?
I don't think he needs much. He doesn't seem like the type of lad that lets things get to him. He's quite a humble guy. He's very well thought of around the place. He does a lot away from the pitch. I think there's always, in this day and age, very difficult to give advice in an era where social media and fame is greater than it's ever been. I suppose all I would say when I was a young player is when I realised my responsibility away from the pitch, my on-the-pitch performances got more consistent. I'm not suggesting he's doing anything too wrong, but I think finding that balance and making sure you're doing everything you can away from the pitch correctly. Because as Nigel said, his ability and his temperament is there for all to see. So I think he'll work it out himself. I think he's working it out. We saw that today. You don't score the winner in a game like that with that technical ability. Do you know where he was just before he got the ball? He was in the left wing position. You're 1-1 at home to Villa. Yes, you've got to go for it. But he's a fullback. He's been bombing forward all game. He's probably knackered. And he's finding himself on the edge of the box, smashing a ball in like a technical number 10. It's like that's a mentality that comes from a player who's got belief in himself. I don't think he'd be listening to me or Nigel if we were giving him advice anyway.
Do you see similarities?
I'll make him listen, Daddy. I will. I think for me, I agree with you. It's just for me, he's fantastic game forward, and I think the reality of it is you always learn in football. You've got the mentality, Danny. You know, you're a midfield general yourself. You never stop learning. Whenever playing, especially because he's so young and talented, he's got to keep understanding. I can learn. I can get better. I can take over games. You look at that generation of youngsters coming through. For me, the one player that stood out the most, doesn't even play in the Premier League, who has the ability to control the game from that fullback position is Alphonso Davies at Bayern Munich. Now, he has the ability where he can literally control the game from that fullback position because he's so confident in himself, not just going forward, but also defensively. So for me, if I was a manager or a coach, I would say to Trent, look, you've got everything going forward. I'm not worried about that. But let's work on defensive side of things. Let's make sure you don't get caught out. Let's make sure people can't criticize you to say, defensively, you're not all that, but you're great going forward. You want to be the all-round player. Let's watch video. Let's watch tape where you don't have to be looking at the likes of Henderson or Van Dijk to be constantly talking to you and guiding you. You've got to know yourself from studying the game at a higher level of what it takes to be in that top-class bracket. And those are things that he can take on himself. And it's constructive criticism, depending how it's delivered to him, because they want him to be the best. And I think that's something that he could truly do. You know, you just got to be the best. When we were young, we looked at the best. You know, my thing was obviously, I remember when I was younger, I was calling your name in the playground, you, McManaman and all of them, when you was at Liverpool and I got to play against you. But at the same time, it was always to play against you to say, I want Danny Murphy to remember my name and to respect my name. And that's what you do. And that's what I think Trent Alexander-Arnold should want to do.
Very, very interesting points there, Nigel. But you mentioned about mentality, Danny. Do you think he has that Steven Gerrard mentality? Because you can definitely draw similarities between them, can't you?
Well, the mentality of a young player being comfortable in his surroundings and having a strong belief in his ability, yes, lots of similarities. I think that's fair. I think they're obviously different players, different positions. And you're talking about Steve, who was one of the best midfielders this Premier League's ever seen. I mean, but the comparison is fair in that when you sometimes see a young player come into the Premier League, you see them have a 3-month, maybe maximum, brilliant spell. And then they have a little dip and they come back and it's up and down. As I was saying earlier, Trent, for such a young man, went 2 years solid, more or less, 2 seasons solid, playing at a level that got him in the England squad, won him a Premier League, won him a Champions League. Now, that to me suggests he's ahead of his years in his head, in his football intelligence. But even when you get a bit older, you can have a bad spell. This recovery that you'll see in him is the strength of character he has. But I think he has got a mindset that's far and away above a lot of young players we see in the Premier League. And that's why he's so brave on the ball, because he doesn't worry about the consequences of failing with a pass or with a shot or with a free kick. I mean, how many 21-year-olds take free kicks for one of the biggest clubs in the world, and you're a fullback? That's where we're at with him. Give me the ball, give me the ball. So I think the comparison's fair, but he's got a long way to go before we start talking about him like, what Stevie's achieved.